Mangwanani Malelepo Fukenjani Class Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories. Today, we begin in South Africa, where Julius Malema has been convicted over a 2018 firearm incident, a verdict that could cost him his parliamentary seat. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, former President Joseph Kabila has been sentenced to death in absentia, while in Madagascar, protests demanding President Andre Rajolina's resignation intensify. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu declares reforms are paying off, and in Liberia, controversy grows over a $10 million presidential villa project. We also bring you the weather, and of course, Adi Hogad joins us with current affairs, sports and entertainment from South Africa. Watch Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GoTV 25, oneup2.com, NTV Africa, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly. Let's get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. A South African court has found Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, guilty of firing an assault rifle in public during the party's 5th anniversary celebrations in the Eastern Cape in 2018. Malema, who has been a parliamentarian for over a decade, argued the weapon was a toy, but Magistrate Toinette Olivier ruled otherwise after 3 days of judgment. The charges include unlawful possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition, discharging a firearm in a public place, and reckless endangerment of people or property. Malema's bodyguard, Adrian Snyman, accused of supplying the gun, was acquitted. If sentenced to more than a year in prison, Malema could lose his parliamentary position, and this is under constitutional rules. However, sentencing has been scheduled for January 23, with a pre-sentencing report ordered. Malema's party denounced the ruling as a political witch hunt. Here is Julius Malema after the verdict.
We are going to the appeal and we will go to the Supreme Court. We'll end up at the Constitutional Court. We are not fighting the case. We are fighting racism, pure racism that we have been subjected to for 7 years. Mediocrity of the highest order. A magistrate who can't read her own notes. She writes down and can't read what she has written down. But if it was an African female reading the same way she was reading, it will be a huge criticism out there. But because it's white and we accept white mediocrity, there is no outcry and criticism out there. We want to take this opportunity to thank our legal team. They fought a good fight. They stood with us, and as we move forward, we are going to reinforce that legal team. We'll bring Advocate Mugai Tovi as we go into the appeal and strengthen our case, because it is now beyond all of us. We need to strengthen our team and confront the system, and you need lawyers who are not scared of the system.
Our correspondent in South Africa, Adi Hogad, will be expanding on that story when we dive into the South Africa report. But for now, former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila has been sentenced to death in absentia on charges of war crimes, treason, and crimes against humanity, including murder, torture, and insurrection. Accused of supporting the M23 rebel group that controls parts of eastern Congo, Kabila denied the charges and dismissed the case as politically motivated, but did not attend the military court hearings. The court also ordered him to pay a fine of $33 billion. Allies, including Kikaya bin Karubi, condemned the trial as theatrical and a product of President Felix Tshisekedi's authoritarianism. Kabila, who ruled Congo for 18 years after the 2001 assassination of his father Laurent, returned from exile earlier this year, reportedly to contribute to peace efforts in Goma. Tshisekedi has accused him of masterminding the M23 insurgency, leading to the stripping of his legal immunity by senators. Meanwhile, rebel leader Bertrand Bisimwa said the sentencing undermined ongoing peace talks. The UN and Western nations have accused Rwanda of backing the M23, allegations Kigali denies. Despite a ceasefire deal in July, fighting has persisted across the mineral-rich region. Moving on. Hundreds of demonstrators across Madagascar staged a fifth consecutive day of protests demanding the resignation of President Andry Rajoelina after weeks of anger over power blackouts and water shortages escalated into nationwide unrest. Inspired by youth-led movements abroad, the rallies represent the most serious challenge to Rajoelina since his 2023 re-election. The president dissolved his government earlier this week in a bid to calm the tensions, but the move failed to quell the momentum. Protesters in the capital Antananarivo and other cities, including Toliara, chanted Rajoelina out while carrying flags and banners. The United Nations reported 22 deaths and over 100 injuries since the demonstrations began, figures disputed by the government. Security forces escorted marches, while opposition leaders called for the president to step down and rejected joining any new government under him. Rajoelina's spokesperson accused protesters of looting homes and destroying property, warning against a coup. The opposition alliance Firasikania pledged its support for youth-led calls to rescue the Malagasy people from worsening conditions. With political tensions rising, the demonstrations mark a defining moment in Madagascar's now fragile democracy. In his Independence Day address, marking Nigeria's 65th anniversary, President Bola Tinubu declared that the worst is over following painful economic reforms. The removal of fuel subsidies and the unification of exchange rates initially triggered inflation, poverty, and unrest, but Tinubu insisted the measures were necessary to stabilize the economy. Here is Bola Tinubu in his own words.
In the last 28 months of my administration, like our founding fathers and leaders who came before me, I have committed myself irrevocably to the unfinished nation-building business. Upon assuming office, our administration inherited a near-collapse economy caused by decades of fiscal policy distortions and misalignment that had impaired real growth. As a new administration, we face a simple choice: continue business as usual and watch our nation drift, or embark on a courageous fundamental reform path. We chose the path of reform. We chose the path of tomorrow over the comfort of today. Less than 3 years later, the seeds of those difficult but necessary decisions are bearing fruits. In resetting our country for sustainable growth, we ended the corrupt fuel subsidy and multiple foreign exchange rates that created massive incentive for a rentier economy, benefiting only a tiny minority. At the same time, the masses received little or nothing from our commonwealth. Our administration has redirected the economy towards a more inclusive path, channeling money to fund education, healthcare, national security, agriculture, and political economic infrastructure, such as roads, power, broadband, and social investment programs. These initiatives will generally improve Nigerians' quality of life as a result of the tough decisions we made, the federal and state government, including local government, now have more money to take care of the people at the lower level of the ladder to address our development challenges.
Nigerians, do let us know what you think about Bola Tinubu's national address. In the last of our top stories, a $10 million presidential villa under construction in President Joseph Boakai's hometown of Foya, Lofa County, has sparked sharp public debate in Liberia. The project, managed by MUSNS Groups Incorporated and supervised by engineer Edward Yamba, began in September 2024 and is under tight security. Civil society activist Eddie D. Jawolo questioned why such a vast sum was allocated to a villa in a region lacking basic services, arguing that a factory could have provided jobs and long-term benefits. Concerns were also raised over transparency, with critics pointing to unclear financing sources and the role of the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission. Deputy Information Minister Daniel Osando responded that the development is a Mano River Union-funded initiative strategically placed in Foya due to its regional position near Guinea and Sierra Leone. Despite this explanation, skepticism remains, with comparisons drawn to former President George Weah's controversial private construction projects. Critics say the villa symbolizes misplaced priorities, reflecting power rather than addressing pressing national needs. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Adi Hochad, who is in Cape Town, ready to deliver the South Africa report. But prior to that, it's the weather. As promised, Adi Hochad now joins us from South Africa in Cape Town to deliver the South Africa report. Good morning, Adi. There's quite a lot on your plate today.
Yes. Good morning, Ashwin. Quite indeed. Quite a lot on our plate and lots happening in South Africa, all over the world. But it was a busy day in South Africa yesterday, for sure.
Without a doubt, Ari, let's get into it. In your first segment, South African authorities are working closely with French officials, and this is to investigate the tragic death of South Africa's ambassador in France, Nathi Mthethwa. And in another update, EFF leader Julius Malema was found guilty in his firearm trial, and the AGOA trade agreements with the USA officially expired this week, with many South African companies forced to find alternative markets. Take us through it, Ari.
Yes, I'll start with the Nathi Mthethwa. It's very sad and very tragic, the death of the ambassador in France, Mr. Mthethwa. Of course, was also a minister of police and also a minister of sport and culture. So it is a high profile at the moment because it's a priority when any diplomat die overseas. The challenge for the South African government at the moment is it's in the hands of the French police and also Interpol that is involved in a way. Apologies. So yes, what makes this interesting case at the moment, why the government and authorities wants to get behind all the reasons as much as possible, is because it's on the back of currently the Langa Commission that's going on related to police interference, and it started with from the KwaZulu-Natal area, and there was implications obviously from Mr. Clark and Twek, who was mentioned in quite a few of these situations. Why it's important? Because there's lots of commissions in South Africa. It puts pressure on people. People are implicated, sometimes seem to be guilty enough to be charged, sometimes not guilty. The Zondo Commission is a big example, Ashwin. They were, in that time, there were 90 members of the ANC and some in Parliament at the moment implicated in commission. So lots of people are mentioned, like in the commission as well, but you don't want people to take their own lives because of that. So the suspicion is always, was it taken by his own accord, or is there foul play? So I think the South African government just wants to make sure. I'm not implicating there's foul play, there's just make sure there isn't. Is the right words probably. But there's lots of commissions happening in South Africa. The challenge is in the commissions, lots of people are implicated, but there's very little, indeed any, that gets to trial, purely because of the volume of that as well. So that is on that side, but very sad and very tragic, the death of Nathi Ntekwa. Then on to, yes, the much publicized the EFF leader, that is Julius Malema. I think we can focus maybe on what happened after the conviction. So it needs to go now to the 23rd of January. That's going to be for pre-sentencing. And he did implicate that it'll go to the Supreme Court and higher up for this guilty verdict. The challenge probably more is news reports this morning that I read, all commentary is just related in his speech afterwards that you played in the beginning, is obviously making it 100% a race thing against him. So that is the one big challenge. And also singing "Kill the Farmer, Kill the Boer" as well. So there was a white judge, so that doesn't help for sure. And then also, I'm not sure about all the facts, but his guard, that is also a white man, if we need to talk about white at this moment, he was found not guilty. I'm not sure how that happened, because it was clear on the videos that he did hand him the firearm. So it was proven it wasn't a toy gun, so it was dangerous, and it is, I think in this case, we must all just understand that you must be safe. You must make sure that everything is safe when you handle a gun like that. But it is a political hotspot for South Africa at the moment. The EFF leader is under pressure now, so we'll see if he can, what will happen on the 23rd of January. So that is all happening in South Africa regarding that. Let's go to the markets as well. It is AGOA, as you mentioned, that is that got to an end just a few days ago. It's officially that there's no more AGOA. AGOA was an agreement with 1,800 products that 32 countries, southern sub-Saharan countries, could have duty-free exports to the USA. So that's what's happening at the moment. That's well documented. South Africa export to the US have dropped by 17% the last few months, and that's mainly because of metals and vehicles and chemicals. So it is under pressure. On the back of it, South African rand strengthened quite a bit against the dollar. The price this morning was 17 rand 23, so that is quite low, the lowest it's been in a year. South African rand strengthening. That's on the back of the US saying they have a challenge now with job provision. So we'll see how this plays out. But also on government level, there's indication that both the USA and South Africa are quite keen, and other 32 countries, to see if AGOA can be implemented again. But that needs to be done by Congress, not by a president.
All right, Ari. Now let's go into a subject that South Africans are unified when it comes to purpose, and hopefully it continues. In fact, it actually becomes a microcosm of the political situation in South Africa, and that is the subject of sport, where all South Africans come together. The South African women's cricket team plays against England on Friday, and this is in their opening game of the 2025 50-over Cricket World Cup. And the Springbok men's rugby team take on Argentina on Saturday, and this is in the Rugby Championship in London.
Yes, sport to do unify in South Africa, and there's lots of World Cups. The Women's Rugby World Cup just done, and now it's the turn of the Women's 50 over World Cup in India. It's also played in Sri Lanka, so the first games have been played. Good starts for India and for Australia. South Africa play on Friday. They play against England, a tough start for them. They play on Monday against New Zealand. It's going to be tough games all over. There's 8 teams competing. You play all of them. You play 7 games, and then the top 4 will go through. South Africa do have a very good team, a 50 over team. That's Laura Wolfhard, one of the star players. They've got good batsmen, Tasman Brits also, and Marizan Kapp, a good all-rounder. So they're quite competitive. They've been close in T20 games. They played in the World Cup final. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the 50 over game. That's quite different from the 20 over. But going to be tough opposition from Australia and also from England and India. Those 3 would be the teams to beat. So all the best for them. So yes, on the rugby field, the Springboks doing well. So there's a big game this Saturday at the neutral field. It's at Twickenham. That's in London. That's Siya Kolisi. He's the captain. That will be South Africa playing against Argentina Rugby Championship. Siya Kolisi playing in his 98th game. So 100 games is waiting for him, the inspirational captain. If South Africa can win the game, they will probably win the title. Even without scoring bonus point tries, they're 1 point ahead of New Zealand, and they've got a better difference on points. So a win in Twickenham will probably be enough for South Africa to defend their title to be champions for the 2nd year running. So that's happening. Kickoff time, Namibian time. That is 3 p.m. on Saturday.
All right, Ari, we'll end in a much lighter note. One of the Western Cape's most unique tourist attractions is the Cape Point Nature Reserve. It offers a unique blend of fauna and flora. Sounds like another spot I should take my wife, Ari.
Yes, you need to come for a long time to Cape Town, for sure. Cape Point is a little bit of a distance you drive from Cape Town, the city centre. It's at the back of the peninsula. It's beautiful. So you see the oceans in front of you there, and it's a whole Cape with the Table Mountain National Park. It's beautiful, the ocean pounding there, and it's the southern point of the peninsula. Many people thought it's the southern tip of Africa, but that's a bit around the corner. It's a Gullis. So that's what you get there. It's a national park. So on the way driving to that point, you'll go past all these animals, and there's zebras there. There's also eland and bontebok, but it's fauna and flora. So it's brilliant. You'll see baboons as well. The baboon on the right hand side, they're definitely there. That's some of the lookout points. Look how spectacular that is. Now down at the restaurants where you park as well, there will be lots of baboons. So just be mindful closing your doors and don't have any food around. So that is the beautiful black oyster catcher. Very unique. You find it there in its natural habitat there at the Cape Point. So bird lovers, there's 250 species of birds that you can see there. That's a Cape Point with a lighthouse there in the distance. You can see the lighthouse just on the top there. And for boats, very important, of course. It's a very rugged, the Cape of Storms, and they can see the lighthouse from 63 kilometers out of sea. So that is a very unique spot in South Africa to visit. It's quite open. There's lots of space. It's a national reserve. And flowers also, you get the King Protea is one of the flowers that you will get there. So there's lots of flowers. There's a King Protea, a beautiful flower. So worth a visit, worth a day to go out to the Cape Point area. So that's definitely one we'll put on the bucket list, Ashwin. We've got a few places on that bucket list, but looking forward to see you soon in Cape Town.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much, Ari, for delivering the South Africa report as only you can.
Yes, nice talking to everyone, and a blessed day for everyone. We talk again next week, Thursday. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers. This has been Africa Good Morning, one of our broadcasts making sure that you get all the potent stories stemming from the great African continent. Let's have a look at the highlights from this specific episode. Julius Malema of the EFF convicted over 2018 firearm incident. Former Congolese President Joseph Kabila sentenced to death in absentia. Madagascar protesters demand President Andry Rajolina's resignation. Those have been some of our stories on Africa Good Morning. Of course, we touched on a whole lot more with Ari Hohad from the Malema story, expanding on that, right up until sport and the wonderful fauna and flora available to you should you visit Cape Town. We also touched on the national address from Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, and we talked about the ongoing debate in Liberia over the president's $10 million villa. This has been Africa Good Morning. We'll certainly be back tomorrow, making sure that we cap off the week as the best we can, giving you the potent story stemming from Africa. My name is Ashwin Bedi. Swera Jaganaka.